Good morning, Orod.
Good morning, Soma. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I got a new frame.
I can definitely see that. Haircut. So, looks like, you did spend some time in grooming yourselves to look fit for the
Grooming.
video.
Yeah, I also do grooming. So yeah, last weekend it was my one of my best friend wedding, and he asked me a few weeks before the wedding, he texted me and said, "Hey, Orod, do you want to be my MC?" So I
Mhm.
just said yes, but I didn't even know what MC is. So I asked him, "Okay, what is MC?" And I figure out. But it was fun. I had
Yeah,
good fun. Yeah. And
well,
I was thinking, when we trust someone,
yeah.
we say yes without even think about it. And then we figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking exactly, like the commitment. Wow, this is actually going to be a really good segue to our question or our episode today. So I
All
do
right. What is it?
have. So I have heard someone saying that, hey, let's not do Kanban because Kanban doesn't have any commitment.
Okay. Good
So,
one. Yes,
I mean, this is really good because how you committed without even understanding what
I
MC
know.
is, and really, really nice segue to our episode today. So, okay, let's start it. So, Kanban has no commitment. That someone has stated. So, what do
Okay.
you think about it?
So yeah, that's definitely one of the most common misunderstanding about Kanban for sure. In fact, many people want to use Kanban because they think there is no commitment, right? Whatever comes, we do it. I think when we talk about upstream Kanban, we talk a little bit about the commitment point. However, uh, in Kanban, from Kanban point of view, there is definitely commitment point, and not just one commitment point, but two commitment points.
Yeah.
So basically, we try to differentiate between the options, so what customer raised, but we haven't committed or decided we want to do them, because there are lots of things come from customer and we don't want to work on them
Yep.
because they're not probably even needs to be built, or maybe it's too big, too complex. We don't want to invest. It's against our vision and those kind of things. So when customer raise something at that point, it's just an option. We might work on them or we might not work. But at some point, delivery team commit to deliver the point. And that's basically when we tell customer, hey, customer, we're going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And this will be our first commitment point. And we start working. When the work finished in our team, and after that, there is another team needs to pull it and continue working. That will be our second commitment point, which basically shows that, okay, we finished the work, we've done everything, it's ready for the next team to pull
Mhm.
it and continue.
Yeah. That's uh that's really good explanation of the both commitment points. And I also think that, what you started saying that this is one of the most common misconception people have.
Mhm.
Could it be also because that when usually how things flows in big organization is that they have a lot of internal stakeholder, internal customer who comes
Yeah.
up with all those options and stuff. And the basic expectation that people have is that, when you are raising that through a quarterly planning,
Mhm.
you get more like an estimated, like date when things will be delivered.
Mhm.
There's no way of going through the option. And I know very well that you have worked with a lot of startup.
Yeah.
um, I used to be a co-founder of a startup in India. So
Mhm.
one of the things that really makes me reflect on it, and I find it really strange and crazy, is that when I used to be in the startup, we
Mhm.
really used to think a lot about, like, the requests that we are getting and do a lot of triaging
Mm-hmm.
So the triage would like consider facts like, is it worth delivering something? Is it going to cover the cost? Is it like even feasible with the resources that we have or the skill set of the people that we have? So
Mm-hmm.
all those things will happen before we go and tell the customer back that we are going to do it.
Yes.
That is one of the things which you just mentioned, the upstream, the
Yes.
option that comes through. It is very common in startup because startup does that on a regular basis, that it's not worth delivering everything that comes through our funnel.
Yes.
So we have to triage that. We have to figure out, is it worth?
Yeah.
Now, that is one thing. For me, that's a really valuable process because you are eliminating waste right there. However, when we talk about the commitment point in delivery teams, the options needs to be really thought through. It needs to be really, properly evaluated that whether it's going to provide the value,
Mm-hmm.
the proportion of the value is going to match our customers' expectation, but at the same time, it is aligning with our business expectation or not. And
Yeah.
then it goes to the delivery team. And then those 2 points, commitment point that Kanban already has for the delivery. But the other thing that comes to my mind is, Orod, we spoke about the service delivery principle in Kanban.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kanban is focusing on customer centricity and service delivery. So there would be something about commitment, isn't it? Like that's when we
Yeah.
talk about the misconception.
So, you were talking about startups. There is a reason that startups, almost all of them struggle because they committed as soon as customers say I want something. They say yes, right? And that's because startups normally are smaller than their customers. So they don't want to lose customers. So they just keep saying yes, yes, yes. They overload themselves. So they committed basically too much. And that's why they go through a lot of context switch, things takes longer, low quality product, and all those kind of things that we see. That doesn't do anything with Kanban or whatever they do. They don't really have any process. Otherwise, we all have commitment. Everything has a commitment, right? So you want to buy a house, you go and inspect different houses. So at that time, they are just option, and you commit to only one of them, the one that you can afford. It's located in a good place. It's big enough for your family. Stuff like that, right? So it met all the criteria. And say, yeah, I commit to buy this one. And when you signed off, then it's your problem. Before that, you have the opportunity to ask pets inspection or someone to inspect the pipelines and stuff like that, right? But when you say, okay, I committed, this is my house, then it's your problem. Same with the delivery team. They shouldn't commit to everything that comes from customer. Otherwise, clearly, they easily overload themselves because always demand is higher than our capacity, right? Because it's easier to say, I want this, right? Than actually build it. So they need to defer this commitment point to the right of the workflow as far as possible. So they make sure that they are going to actually deliver. And customer also make sure that this is actually what I want. Because it's quite common that customers say, I want this. You have a chat with them after a couple of meetings, they change their mind and say, oh, no, this is not a priority, or let's change it or do something else. You know what I'm saying? So there are a lot of things happening, or should at least happen, before teams say, okay, we commit to do that. And
Yeah.
I think as part of our policies, we talk about the pull criteria, right? So, and that's a suggestion for everyone who listened to this episode, that this should be the agreement between the team and the customers. So team also has some sort of expectation from customer. So if customer expect the team to deliver something at the right time for them with the quality and all that, team also has some sort of expectation. So you need to give us enough information. You need to commit to your idea Don't keep changing it. Don't say I want this today and no, I don't want it next week and I want something else, right? So this is a mutual agreement between delivery team and the customer, at least should be.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to the startup, I believe that recent day startup, I'm seeing a shift because I can talk about one of the example that recently a startup got acquired by a mid-scale company in US, and they really had Kanban in their portfolio level where they were doing the triage and trying to figure out what is going to work not only for the customer but also for the team. So one thing that we need to understand is that, the startups, we are actually making it big. They are applying that. So committing, what we are trying to say here in this episode is that you commit when it is necessary, not because it is there, you have to commit. And that is what Kanban also proposes, that differing the one that you said, it's really valid that the delivery team should defer it as much as possible to understand that whether it's the right priority,
Mm.
and the second thing, whether it's required for the customer. Uh, I can add another example, and this is coming from a big corporate, one
Yeah.
of the organization that I have experience working in. Some of their work was, like after the delivery team has delivered it, it would sit on the shelf for say 8 to 9 months.
Yeah.
No one's going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after few years, the team, and it was a Scrum team, so
Yeah.
the Scrum team started questioning that
Mm-hmm.
why do we want to work on something which is not even a priority for the organization? But
Mm-hmm.
then again, it would come through the quarterly planning process or PI planning, whatever you call it. Similar kind of, work would keep coming to them. So
Mm-hmm.
when they had accumulated data for say for 3 years, they actually showed that to the business stakeholders and asked them that we have heard all this work. What happened to them? Why those things are not being used? And we are getting requests for the similar kind. So
Okay.
when you talk about it, it is the same thing that the commitment in Kanban exists so that we can reduce the waste in the system.
Yeah. So you mentioned that commit only if necessary. Um, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about this one because necessary as maybe the CEO of a startup means I don't want to lose this customer, right? So I commit to that. But the thing is, we need to commit not only when it's necessary, but we also have the confidence that we can deliver it because it's much better to tell the customer we can't give it to you next month than today, and then customer think about it, and, or maybe de-scope or whatever. Then we commit and say, yeah, we're gonna give it to you next month, and then give it to the customer next 6 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
You
definitely.
lose your customer, way easier. Now
Yeah.
that's true. So before we wrap up, I also wanted to quickly talk a little bit about why we want to push this commitment point to the right. So I said there are quite a lot of demand that we don't want to work on them. So they basically needs to be discarded before we commit, and narrow down and get to the work that actually has value to the customer and also has enough information for us to start with. Another thing is, the lead time, right? So if we committed from the beginning, as soon as customer raise it, then
Mhm.
your lead time become too long and it's not realistic because yes, customer thought that they're gonna get it, but not necessarily give it, right? And probably based on my experience, around 30 to 40% of the demand from customer never been done. Team never even start. So we need to narrow down those kind of things as part of the upstream and start calculating how long the work was in our
Mhm.
team as soon as we committed to,
Mhm.
not as soon as customer raised. So I don't know, maybe, when you order something online,
Mhm.
they send a message to you. Yeah, we received the order. Thank you very much. We get back to you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So these 2 weeks, they're going to look at the order, make sure everything is in the stock, all those kind of thing. And then they message and say, now your order shipped, for example. That means
Yes.
committed, it's done. Before that, they might say, okay, it takes longer, something like that. All right. So I guess we talk about this commitment point in Kanban. So yes, Kanban has a commitment point. If people don't use it, it doesn't do anything with Kanban, but we strongly suggest everyone to differentiate between the options and what actually we committed to deliver.
So if we are talking in terms of Scrum backlog, anything that is part of your product backlog doesn't mean that you are actually committing to deliver them. So
Yep.
that is one thing that everyone needs to understand. Product backlog can contain all the options that
Yep.
is you or has been requested by your team or like from your team by your stakeholder or customers. But you will again go through that process of sprint planning where
Mm.
you make sure that if you are ready to commit to that or not. So
Yeah,
sprint planning is the commitment point for Scrum.
that's right.
Kanban. We do that through replenishment or, when things comes in, that's the first point of commitment in Kanban that, okay, now we are working on it. The moment we say that, that's when the clocks like starts ticking. So as Orod mentioned, there is commitment point, not only one, two of them.
Yep. All
Well,
right.
I think we are done with this and the key takeaway. So yes, that is a misconception. Again, there are commitment points. We also spoke a lot about like lead time, understanding customer lead time, how to do triage in when you have options in upstream, and why it is important to defer the commitment point to the right in Kanban and how that can help you to eliminate waste in your system. Do you have anything to add to that, Oral?
No, I guess that's it. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for listening.
Yes, and if you're watching this, you can see new style or its new
My new
frame
friend.
and hairstyle. Yeah. So I hope you're watching our YouTube channel and also subscribing to it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.